What if Adam and Eve had never sinned? No exile from Eden, no curse on the ground, no chain of wars, betrayals, and broken hearts echoing through time. Tonight, we imagine the world that might have been and what it reveals about the world we have. Act 1. Setup. Let's set the scene. A garden at dawn. Dew on leaves. Fresh fruit within arm's reach. Work is simple and good. Love is open and unashamed. Humans walk with God in the cool of the day. That is the picture Genesis paints before the fall. Now the question, what if the fall never happened? What if that first act of disobedience never broke trust? This is a thought experiment, not a fight over literal or symbolic readings. We're going to use the story as a framework. We'll pull from Jewish and Christian traditions, and we'll keep our feet on the ground. We'll ask how life, culture, nature, and time might unfold without sin's weight. Here are the ground rules. Never sinned means no rupture of trust with God, no expulsion from the garden, no curses in Genesis 3, no pain in childbirth, no ground that fights back, no power struggle where love should be. Humans still have free will. They still make choices, learn, and grow. They still work the garden, because work began before the fall and was called good. The tree of life still stands. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil still calls for trust, patience, and wisdom. First, the headline you came for. A world with no moral evil doesn't freeze into a perfect museum. It stays alive. It has work, discovery, art, and risk. It has weather and seasons. It has tough days and tired muscles. But it lacks the poison that turns challenge into hatred. It lacks malice. It lacks shame. It lacks the shadow that makes us hide from each other and from God. With that in mind, let's walk the paths of a world where the first choice went a different way. Act 2. Escalation. Picture daily life. You wake before sunrise. You tend vines and trees, not because you must, but because you love the work. The soil isn't cursed. It's generous. You plant, water, prune, and harvest, and the earth answers. Thorns exist as part of the wild, but they don't choke your plans. You don't fight the land. You partner with it. Your body is strong. You feel hunger, and then you eat. You feel tired, and then you rest. Pain still exists in the small sense. The burn of muscles, the sting of a scrape, the ache that says you're alive and growing. But pain does not rule. It also does not carry fear, because fear is not your master. The line in Genesis about pain in childbirth? In this world, that curse never falls. Birth is effort, not fear. Joy covers it like a warm sun. Now listen to the sound of a city without locks. Trade hums, but it feels different. No one cheats, no one hoards. Value still matters. You count the hours in the harvest, not to squeeze others, but to plan, to share, to serve. Money may appear as a tool, an easy way to trade across distance, but greed does not drive it. Markets exist, but without the corners and traps that turn neighbors into prey. Work is not a race. It is a craft. School looks like patience. Older hands guide younger hands. Knowledge is not a ladder to climb alone. It's a bridge built together. Think of science without the urge to dominate. You learn the laws that govern seed, soil, and star. You test, you measure, you argue. But argument is not war. It's a dance. Truth welcomes questions, because questions are part of love. What about marriage and friendship? The ancient line says the man and his wife were naked and not ashamed. In this world, that trust never breaks. Desire is clean. Love is faithful, not because of fear or force, but because it's the natural shape of a free heart that knows it is safe. Families form without rivalry. Siblings compete in games, not for love. Parents teach wisdom, not just rules. People still make mistakes. They spill water, forget tools, say the wrong word, but missteps don't turn into contempt. I'm sorry comes easy. Forgiveness comes easier. Does anyone rule? Yes and no. Dominion isn't domination. It's stewardship. You see leaders, but they are gardeners at scale. They set rhythms. They listen more than they speak. Laws are few, clear and open. Keep creation, honor each other, seek wisdom, share what you have, tell the truth. Courts exist because disputes still happen. But judges heal more than they punish. Prisons don't define the city. This is not a police state. It's a community grown from trust. Would there be art? More than you can imagine. Flourishing loves to sing. Music fills harvest nights. Painted walls glow. Poetry weaves work and wonder into memory. You don't make art to escape a cruel world. You make it to celebrate one you want to understand. There is comedy, but not cruelty. There is drama, but not betrayal. Stories do not need villains to be alive. They can be about quests, discovery, and the joy of mastering a skill, the patience of a long build, the grace of a promise kept. Now the hard one, death and disease. Here traditions divide, so we'll walk both paths. Some Christian thinkers say humans were given special gifts, in Eden call them pre-fall gifts. Those include freedom from death and a strong harmony between body and soul. In that view, if the first couple never sinned, humans would age without decay, then pass into a higher life through the tree of life. No graves, no fear. Just a change of state, like sunrise after night. Disease, which often twists our bodies through disorder and broken trust with creation, would not stalk the camp. Viruses and bacteria might still exist as part of the web of life, but they wouldn't turn against us. Others, including many Jewish voices, read the story differently. Death is part of the natural order. A man is made from dust, and to dust he will return. What changes with sin is not the fact of dying, but the sting, the meaning. In a sinless world, death is rare, peaceful, and dignified. It comes late. It comes without terror. It is held by a community that believes life is good and that goodness does not end when breath does. Illness, in this view, can still happen as a natural frailty, but it isn't a moral judgment, and people respond with care, not stigma. Animals? Genesis 1 paints an early picture where plants are food for both humans and beasts. Some read that as a world without predation. In our sinless timeline, that would mean an ecosystem tuned another way. No blood sport, no fear. Lions eat grass. Wolves pick berries. The web of life hums without fangs. Others point out that the text may be poetic and that animal death might have existed before humans. If that's so, then the change is about relationship. Humans treat animals with gentleness. Hunting, if it exists, is reverent, not wasteful. No species go extinct because of human carelessness. The ark is never needed because the flood never comes. What about the wider story, Babel, the flood, the wars? They never happen. There is no murder of Abel. There is no world that fills with violence. Here is no tower built to make a name out of pride. Language stays. One or many languages bloom with ease without dividing hearts. Migration is not a flight from fear. It's an adventure. New lands are settled in peace. Rivers are named with joy. Fences mark gardens, not battle lines. You might wonder, without enemies, would we still innovate? Surprisingly, yes, maybe more. War has often pushed technology, but so has play. O has curiosity, so has love. We still have storms to predict, crops to improve, and distance to cross. We still want to know what's beyond the ridge. We still dream of flight. We still look up and ask what lives among the stars. The difference is motive. Without conquest and greed drinking the budget, the best minds turn to tools that heal, bind, and beautify. Medicine focuses on repair, not profit. Energy is clean because it is chosen for stewardship, not hidden cost. Cities grow like gardens, dense, green, and walkable, shaped by shade and sound as much as by speed. Architecture listens to land. Roads follow contours that protect water and soil. Craft lasts, waste is rare. The planned obsolescence joke never gets written, because no one thinks like that. On a personal level, shame and fear don't drive you. That changes everything. Projects don't start with, "Prove you're worthy." They start with, "You belong, now build." Schools aim at wisdom, not just grades. Workplaces are less about status and more about contribution. You still get feedback. You still have standards. But the goal is growth. People can become experts without turning into tyrants. The deadly fog of "I am what I produce" lifts. Identity rests on being loved. Then it moves outward in service. What about disagreement? It's real. Without sin, people still see the world from different angles. They get in each other's way. They talk past each other. But disagreement becomes a path to better truth, not a shortcut to contempt. Sarcasm loses its bite. Debate loses its dark energy. You listen first, then answer. If you feel anger, it acts like paying a signal, not a weapon. You cool off, you speak again. You repair what needs repair. Act 3, Climax and Aftermath. Now let's press time forward. If there is no fall, how does history change? Start with the family tree. Cain never kills Abel. The first altar never sees a brother's blood. The early cities rise without a murder's mark. The line of families grows with no spiral of vengeance. Songs don't glorify violence. They celebrate skill and faithfulness. Craft guilds form to pass down trade across centuries. The world fills with people who trust each other to keep promises. If Babel never collapses communication, what shapes culture? Unity doesn't mean uniformity. Differences bloom like wildflowers. One valley loves wood. Another learns stone. One coast sings in modes you've never heard. Another captures wind like a harp. Travel is safe, so ideas walk fast. A discovery in one place becomes a gift to the world, not a secret to hoard. Libraries grow on every shore. Language branches, but the roots touch. No flood means no reset. The earth ages with us. We learn to read it well. We terrace hills without stripping them. We plant forests and prune them. We dam rivers carefully where needed and let others run free. We map the stars to mark seasons and to dream beyond them. We chart currents, then ride them. First we cross rivers, then seas, then skies. Spaceflight follows not a race to beat an enemy, but a dance to meet a dream. We go because wonder calls, and because exploration becomes service. We learn to see the whole garden from above. Law and government look like this: councils of elders with open doors. Strong, honest voices rise to coordinate complex work harvests, transport, health. The tools we dread in our world, surveillance, propaganda, never get invented the same way because no one wants them. Privacy remains a gift, not a hideout. Transparency fosters trust. Authority is accountable and glad to be. If a leader falters, the community corrects them gently, then firmly, before harm spreads. Power doesn't cling, it flows. Would there be poverty? Not as a wound. People still have less or more, depending on season, skill, or calling. But no one starves because the storehouse always opens. Homes may be simple by choice. Wealth, when it appears, behaves like a river flowing outward. Status doesn't come from having. It comes from giving. Art, again, becomes the engine of memory. Without war memorials, there are gardens of gratitude. Without trauma, there are still tears of beauty. You cry because a song pulls a truth from your chest you didn't know you held. You cry because your child takes a step. You cry because the harvest came in after a hard year, and your neighbors showed up when you needed hands. Now, the question that sits at the center for many Christians: would Jesus come? Some say no. If there is no sin, there is no need for a Savior. The cross is a rescue only if someone is drowning. In this timeline, no one drowns. God's friendship never breaks, so the whole arc of Scripture bends a different way. The prophets still sing, but the song is pure praise. The temple never hangs a veil, because there is no barrier to tear. The story ends with a garden that spreads over the earth, and with God walking there, as at the start. Others say yes, just for a different reason. A medieval thinker named Duns Scotus argued that the incarnation, the idea of God taking on human nature, was more than a rescue plan. It was the crown of creation, planned from the start as a gift. In that view, even in a sinless world, God would still become human to lift humanity higher, to share our work and joy from the inside, to bring creation into a deeper union with the Creator. No cross of suffering needed, just a union of love, a wedding, not a triage room. Either way, worship looks like a feast. No smoke of burnt offerings, because there is no guilt to cover. Just bread and wine shared in thanks. Just music and dance. Just stories told so the children know who they are and what the world is for. Do accidents still happen? Yes. A young builder misjudges a cut. A climber slips and sprains an ankle. A boat misreads the wind and bumps a reef. But without pride and fear, communities turn these little fractures into lessons, not scars. There is no blame spiral. There is no cover-up. Safety culture is woven into the work because every life is precious and no one avoids responsibility with lies. Does anyone rebel? Our premise is a world where the first disobedience never happens. That doesn't make people robots. It means that across time, trust becomes habit, then culture, then joy. Virtue matures. Wisdom deepens. You can still say no. You just don't want to, because you see what trust builds. If temptation whispers, you answer with truth, and you're not alone when you answer. The community helps you stand. Twist, insight. Here's the twist. Eden is not a static park. It's a project. The first command is to tend and keep the garden, then to fill the earth and steward it. That means Eden was always meant to grow. In a sinless world, the garden spreads until the whole planet is a place of care orchards, farms, wetlands, wildlands, and cities that fit like mosaics. The plan was never stay small and safe. The plan was grow up. That changes how we read the thought experiment. The big difference in a world without the fall is not that nothing ever goes wrong. It's that wrong does not become evil. Friction does not turn into fire. Challenge does not become cruelty. Every misstep becomes a path to skill. Every delay becomes a lesson in patience. Every hard season becomes a way to lean on each other. And here's a second insight. Even now, after the fall, we can live in ways that borrow from that world. We cannot erase sin by willpower, but we can shape families, schools, and workplaces that look more like gardens than like factories or battlefields. We can steward land. We can tell the truth. We can forgive fast. We can turn tools away from harm and toward healing. We can build communities where shame isn't the engine and fear isn't the brake. One more angle. In Jewish readings that don't frame the story as inherited guilt, the lesson of Eden highlights choices we make every day. The Yetzer Hara, the impulse to take the easy, selfish path, meets the Yetzer Hatov, the impulse toward the good. The what if here is less about a single choice long ago and more about the rhythm of choices now. We can still aim for a world where trust grows and stays. Reflection takeaway. What do we carry from this journey? First, a sinless world is not boring. It's creative. It's full of learning and play. It's hard in honest ways, but not cruel. It proves that meaning does not need enemies to be strong. Second, Eden was a mission. The command to tend, keep, and fill means the good life was always labor filled with love. The garden was the launch pad, not the finish line. Our best work now echoes that mission whenever we make a place safer, kinder, or more beautiful. Third, the story's heart is trust. Break trust, and fear floods in. Keep trust, and you get a world where risk is not terror and power is not a weapon. That's true in a home, a school, a business, a city. We won't get a perfect world by trying hard. But with wisdom and grace, we can push back the curse in small ways every day. Your turn. In a world without the fall, which change would you want most to see? Work that always nourishes, art without cruelty, or community without fear? And why? Drop your take in the comments. I read them all. If you want more deep dives that make big ideas feel close, history, theology, and thought experiments, hit subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and it makes sure you don't miss what's next.